Let's go. Let's go. Today we have Adam Walsh. Looking forward to
What's
chatting,
going
brother.
on, brother?
Looking
Let's do
forward
it,
to
man. It's
chatting.
been a while.
I
Last time
know,
we
man.
had a good conversation was, I'm going to say 2 or 3 months at least.
I know, dude. Probably before I came over to Asia properly, and then we've kind of,
Hmm.
been chatting back and forth like we do. But yeah, man, I'm excited to kind of catch up properly on this, and drop some bombs for people watching as well. So, I guess
Drop
for
some
anybody,
bombs,
just
man.
to
Yeah.
kind of kick things off, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, or that wants to learn a little bit more about you, just give a
Hmm.
quick intro to yourself as well.
Let's do it, man. Elevator pitch coming up in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right. So, guys, I'm a human, first and foremost. I've known Jordan for quite a while. We first connected, oh, damn, man. I think it was 2021. Am I
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Big 21.
So we first connected 2021. You helped me with some content, some videos. You stayed with me for 3 weeks. And really, since then, in terms of knowing you, we spent a lot of time together, man. Portugal, Spain, sauna sessions. We went to kickboxing together first time.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good experience to share. But
Was.
yeah, we first got connected through the program I run. That was the
Mhm.
first introduction, right? So I
Yeah.
started a program in 2020, which was based on a marketing agency I started in 2019. So the typical story, started a marketing agency, it did well. When it got to maybe, I think, between 10 to 15K a month, I started to think, oh, wow, we did that fast. This would be like one of those YouTube videos where someone's like, I went from 0 to 10K a month in a really short time frame. I
Yeah.
remember joking about it with my business partner and then decided, you know what? Yeah, I could do that. I've done some personal branding before. I kind of understand it. We worked with coaches as well in the agency, so I could understand how to build a personal brand, what content would work. And yeah, started a personal brand. That's where the program then grew from. Ran the agency for over 3 years. Got it to our peak kind of months were 50K a month USD. That was with a team. So at that point, it was pretty much, I don't want to use the word automated. It gets thrown around quite a lot, but delegated, automated 95%. I'm still working each day, 30 minutes, checking in with team, making sure shit's actually happening. But that was pretty much it. But then I actually sold my half. So me and my business partner got to a point where really it was more of just like, I guess, stalemate situation, man. I've explained it to you a few times and you kind of know the ins and outs and the weeds, right? The details. But it was
Yeah.
a stalemate, just two people who built a business that worked to get to point X, but we weren't going to go to point Y together. So we decided we're going to part ways. He actually just bought me out. So it was a nice, easy process for me to say, hey, I can now say I've sold the business that I started. I was like, fuck yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
even better. So I'm going to rock with that.
Mhm.
So yeah, for now, I just do mentoring. That's all I do. So the program I started in 2020, just run that full time now. Have been running it full time for over a year, probably a year. And yeah, it was 2023 when I fully said I'm going to do it just that, nothing else. So year and a month and a half, and it's going fucking good. And I really enjoy it. And this is something we'll dive into. Me and Jordan have dialogued into this on fucking hell, man, like 100 times, I'd say minimum, of the fact that it's really all about building the business you like. And for me, this is a business I like. I make more money doing it than I did before. I literally get to do the thing I like to do. I get to help people. I get to put out content. I get to build a brand. So it's really just the perfect collision of multiple businesses and ideas into what it is. So that is me. Hopefully that's a good full understanding of who I am. And I'm Irish, same as Jordan, which is probably relevant.
That's the big win at the end right there. I love
That's
it.
the big one, man. It's the icing on the
Love it, man.
cake.
So good. It's so good. And like, you know what, man? It's interesting to think back to 2021 when we did meet, which
Mm.
was I was getting started in content creation, diving
Hmm.
down the whole rabbit hole of make money online, trying to create content and drive traffic to a landing page and funnel and things like that, and do affiliate marketing. And
Yeah, yeah.
it was funny because I remember it, man. You reached out to me on TikTok because there was very few people creating content, I guess. And when you see other
Yes.
people in Ireland doing these things, you have a natural tendency to be drawn to them because you're like, oh, okay, well, there's other people doing these things, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, we started up a conversation, man. And you were basically like my first mentor. which later became a friend, which was amazing, man. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
interesting to just think back about that and just to see like how far we both come since then. So it's just yeah, it's incredible to reflect about these things, man. But what I will say, the
Yeah,
one
for
thing
sure.
from everything that you mentioned, man, I've always admired your relentless consistency, right? Oh, because you have a lot of great qualities, like some phenomenal qualities. But one of the things I really admire is your relentless consistency. So can you talk a little bit about like where, I guess that's not where it comes from, because I know that that's something that is
Mm,
built over time, and obviously habits and everything
for
play a
sure.
part in that. But I guess if as a broad question, where does that come from? Like, what's your thought process behind it? How did that get started? I would love to hear
Mm-hmm.
more about that.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on that, and I really do see it as, I'll be honest, with everyone I mentor, it's the biggest problem. It's consistency. Like, there's a lot of guys, girls, whoever we're working with, I'm going to speak to, where, hey, look, they've got a problem, but yeah, it's a problem. Your outreach isn't quite booking calls, or you're taking calls and you're not quite signing deals. But let's really peel it back. What's the problem? You're not consistent. Like, you're good on one sales call, you're shit on nine. You're good
Mm-hmm.
in two outreach messages, you're not great in the others. Like, you're consistently not good first, and then you're bad at being consistent in the first place. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it genuinely is the biggest problem, that when you can get a handle on it, everything just becomes easier, man. So for me, to dive into where I think consistency comes from, like where I understood the value of it, and then could take the understanding of consistency as key to actually implementing it and being consistent. I think it comes from understanding the long game, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
understanding, because if you're starting a business, marketing agency, consulting, whatever, if you're viewing it as, I want to get rich today, tomorrow, I want to get to 10K a month today, tomorrow, well, you're not going to look at it on a long term horizon. So
Mm-hmm.
the partnerships you build, the type of content you put out, the sales tactics you use, they're not going to be long term based, right? Because you're going to want to get the quick, easy win, quick cash, quick win. When you can view it as, this is a thing I'm going to do for years, which I know is to be true for you, Jordan. Like, you're building what you now have wanted to build for years, literally. And I know when you're looking at this, you're not looking at it as, yeah, I'll do it for 12 months. You're
Mm-hmm.
looking at it as, I'm going to do this for 10, 20 years. And I think when you can approach it with that, it's a lot easier to be consistent, because you
Mm-hmm.
just, right? Like, it's like, what? You're not going to show up for the thing you want to do for the next 20 years? No, of course
Mm-hmm.
you will. Right. But if it's, hey, start a drop shipping store tomorrow, and, hopefully I find a winning product and it will boom. Me personally, I would find it very difficult to be consistent with that, because, like, apart from the money it might make, there's no real impact. Like, there's no long term potential of that business. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where it comes from, and it's understanding that it's also really fucking boring, right? Like, being consistent
Yeah.
is so boring, man. Like, there's times I want to pull my eyes out, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing over and over again, but it's a thing that I know will benefit. It will get me to a place that I want to be. And that's hard. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, a lot of people are not going to do it, right? Because it would be easier to just switch the strategy, switch the offer, change the program you're selling, whatever. Like, quite funnily, like, the program we first launched in 2020 is the same program I still have. Does
Mm-hmm.
it mean the content is the same? No, we rebuild the content every year. Does it mean the level of support and coaching and everything you get is the same? No, but the brand is the same. The product is the same. And what that
Mm-hmm.
gives me is, man, this massive, I see it as a massive advantage, because I had a guy join us 2 days ago that had been following me for, guess how long? A year. That's a year. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine, in the year when he first saw me, let's say January 2023, I was teaching how to build a personal brand. And let's then just say 3 months later, he had a call with me, but I was teaching social media marketing, marketing agency. Okay. Now, 6 months later, I'm doing something else. What's
Mm-hmm.
his what's his likelihood of buying from me going to be? I personally think very low, because he's like, I found a guy for X, I got him a call to learn about Y, and now he's doing Z. Like, to me,
Mm-hmm.
that just doesn't align to you building, again, just like a long term businessman. So I think it's a superpower if you can tap into it, whether it's for your fitness, your business, anything else. It really can't not pay off unless the consistency is just in the wrong area. Like, you're
Yeah.
consistently focused on the wrong things. Yeah, man. Like, do you think it's something? Do you see it with people you work with, Jordan? Like, is consistency as big of a problem as I think it is? Because for people I work with, man, it's so clear.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think like you touched on a lot of the big points there, which is the long term mindset. And I think that really comes from getting clear on why you're doing what you're doing and what does that actually look like long term. Because you can say you're thinking long term, but are you really thinking long term? Because you know, if you don't have a vision built for that entire process, 5, 10, 15,
Mm-hmm.
20 years, not saying that you have to have it, you know, rock solid from day one, but
Mm-hmm.
are you at least thinking on that time horizon? Because then, you know, the actions that you take today are just stepping stones towards that. But I do think that it ties very deeply into, do you actually want to do the things you're doing? Like I can imagine, because I
Mm-hmm.
know this personally for myself. When I started the agency, it was for the specific reason to stack skills, because I knew
Mm-hmm.
that where I was in life, I hadn't done enough personal development. I hadn't done enough things or experience to go and start coaching people. That didn't sit right with me, because I know that there's so many coaches out there, especially this year and last year, who've started coaching businesses but have never done anything in the past at all. So it's a very big struggle from day one. So like my thought process was, okay, I know I'm not going to be doing this agency for a long time, but if I can stay consistent with gathering this new data, this information, work with clients, kind of go all in, do all the stuff for them, you know, take on all the risk, and just go ahead and learn all these skills and stack them, I'll be in a much better position to be able to do what I actually want to do at a later time, whenever that time actually does come. And I wasn't sure when
Mm-hmm.
that was, but that allowed me to stay consistent because I knew where it was going eventually, right? But if I was
Love
just
it.
like, hey, I want to
Yeah.
start making money in the next 90 days, and if I don't make money in the next 90 days, and I'm going to do something else, I'm going to try something else. If I was going in with
Mm-hmm.
that mentality, which I was, I'm not going to lie, in the very beginning, I didn't have all this figured
Mm-hmm.
out at all. But over time, from just taking action, I was able to figure it out. But if I went in with that mindset from the very beginning, I think it would have been far more difficult, because when you start to come across these realizations that, hey, this is going to be hard, and oh, I got to change, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a belief about myself I didn't know existed, or oh, I got to change my attitude towards this, and these are all things that are very uncomfortable, more on the personal side than anything else. And when those come up, if you don't have that kind of long term vision, I think it's very difficult to really push through those. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man, 100%. 100% agree. And I think, like, for you specifically, Jordan, looking at your journey, I know how important that has been for you, man. How important it has been for you to be in a business that you can see the long term vision for. So I agree with you. When you did the marketing agency, like, you saw it as, yep, I'm going to do this to learn the skills, stack the skills, and then use that for whatever else. But I know we had conversations when you saw the marketing agency as a 5, 10 year thing. So
Mm-hmm.
even though that might have changed, right? And then you pivoted into coaching, you still did have the long term vision. Whereas,
Yeah.
again, let's just be real. A lot of people will start that same business, but not once have they thought about it for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when I started the marketing agency, I thought 10 years. I thought me and my business partner would do business for 30 years. Like I was like, cool, this is it. We're going to rock together for literally my career. But then
Mm-hmm.
that changed. But my point there is that that belief was there. So even if we only did it for 3 years, or if you did an agency for 1 year, 2 years, it's you still had the belief that you were going to do it for longer, which meant showing up consistently was easy as fuck, man. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, what am I going to do? Am I just not going to work in the thing that I'm trying to build for the next 10 years? And I struggled with it a lot with the other stuff I tried because hey, I gave my intro and said, yeah, I started a marketing agency in 2019, but fucking hell, man, I've got a long list. I've got a copybook full of things I've tried that really
Yeah.
didn't go too far. So most people are going to fall into that. I fell into it. You've fallen into it. It's a common trap. And I think as long as you can come out of that, come out the other side and realize, yeah, man, pick something you're going to actually do for a long time, you'll be fine. You will be
Mm-hmm.
fine. But that is the problem. Because, hey, man, if you're not going to be consistent, like, I don't know what to tell you. I can give you the best script, case study, outreach process. I can give you my whole team. Like, here, have my team. Like, take everyone in my team and go and use it. Still probably not going to work for you because you're
Yeah.
just going to consistently not show up. You need to be
Mhm.
consistent. So,
Consistently inconsistent, huh? But yeah,
oh,
man,
man.
it's it's um it's a primary factor. I mean, if you look at anybody who's built any company, have any success in business over the long term, it's just consistently doing the small things. But what I
For
found,
sure.
man, just from speaking with people from, I work mainly with people who are starting agencies, people who are in the agency space or transitioning from an agency into coaching. So that's also another thing that has come up as well, because again, if you're in sales, you have to consistently network with people, create opportunities for yourself. You have to embody the identity of a salesperson before you get the sales role, right? The same thing
Mm.
with an agency. And what I see is that there is, for some people, right, it's easy to say, hey, you got to be consistent consciously. That's
Mm.
digested and you understand that, okay,
Mhm.
got to be consistent. But why is it that I'm not being consistent? That's really what I was trying to get to the root
Mm.
of. Because there's these things, man, there's these blocks that we all kind of have to varying degrees, and this can stunt us from seeing the world clearly, right? So these kind of emotional blocks, it could be from things that happened in our past. It could be things that we are interpreting from things that we saw, things that we heard. And it's really just about diving deep into those things and changing your perception on some of those things to be able to reframe your view of yourself. Because if we look at, let's say, limiting beliefs, for example, like where do limiting beliefs even come from? It's almost like a buzzword at this point. You got to get rid of your limiting beliefs. Okay, but how do I actually do that? And that's always like the problem that I was trying to solve, because that's what I was suffering with in the very beginning. I was like, I have all these limiting beliefs. People are telling me to change them. How do I actually go and do that? And it was only when I started to dive deep into like the mind, how that works, spirituality, going too deep into spirituality, coming back out of that and looking at science, and then figuring, kind of piecing it together piece by piece. But really, a limiting belief is just a perception of the world or reality that is false. And I think really when we look back and peel back inconsistency, it comes from not just the belief about yourself, we kind of put that and park that for a second, but also the belief that something is going to happen faster than it should naturally, right? I think that because of the online space, because of marketing in general, what marketing really is shifting beliefs. And there's a lot of people out there who will guarantee that you get this result and this result in this time, and it kind of convinces people. And at the end of the day, it is marketing, and that's, you have to market a result at the end of the day. But I think it's a false perception sometimes that people fall into, and they don't see the long-term time horizon because they just see the marketable result. But then it comes back to the factor of, sell people what they want to hear, but then give them what they actually need, and do that in a way that actually makes sense for them to see the long-term perspective overall. So there's so many different
Yeah,
ways you can kind of
that makes
unpack that.
sense.
But
Mm.
yeah, I think right
Yeah,
expectation.
man. I feel you on that, right? Because there's programs and offers I've seen with, set guarantee for X result.
Yeah.
And the ones that seem to be doing it really well are doing exactly as you mentioned. They're selling the guaranteed results and then they're implementing. This is the thing you actually need. This is the inner transformation. This is the inner work that needs to happen. And then, hey, yeah, you'll get the guaranteed result. I think where
Mhm.
the whole no-brainer offer marketing spiel has gone wrong is that too many beginners, in my opinion, have read Alex Hormozzi's $100 million offers. They've watched a webinar from some guy and they've just decided, right, cool, I've no experience, I've never done anything, but let me just slap together a no-brainer guaranteed results offer. I'll get you, for example, I got a DM the other day, 5x your YouTube subscribers, 5x your Instagram followers, 5x your engagement, leads, everything in 90 days or you don't pay. And like there
Mhm.
was spelling mistakes in the message. The guy looked like he definitely didn't have experience. He didn't mention results, no case studies, nothing. I think that's
Mhm.
one of the biggest problems I'm seeing right now, man, is yeah, walk, please. Walk first. Get your
Yeah.
right foot, your left foot, understand how this game works. And then trust me, man, you can start running when you're ready to run and you'll be set. But
Yeah.
again, if
Yeah.
we unpack that, why are people doing that? Why is a beginner saying, oh, damn, man, I'd have to have a no brainer offer? Got to have this guaranteed result that I sell? Well, yeah, it's their belief, right? As you said, if we really peel that back, their limiting belief is I can't get clients because my offer is bad. I can't get clients because people will only pay, businesses will only pay if there's a guaranteed result, which is a limiting belief because I know that to not be true for all businesses in the world. I know there's many that will spend 5 grand a month on something with no guarantee. So that's a limiting
Mhm.
belief people have built up. And if they could, as you said, if they could learn how to peel that back and just work on that, yeah, man, you could probably sign clients with the most basic offer ever. Like literally just what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But I think people just confuse it so much, man, because when you're consistently working on something, let's say your offer, doing outreach, getting sales calls, and it's not converting, it's quote unquote not working. If that's what you're consistently getting, it either makes sense to now be inconsistent, because right, it's when you're consistent, it doesn't work. So if I'm inconsistent, it's still not going to work. Same
Mm-hmm.
result. Or two, let me change. And this is a trap, we've talked about where people are changing their offer every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks. And again, as I mentioned, one of my strongest strengths with my program is the program is the same name, the same product for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone speaks to me a year ago and says now isn't the right time, and then 6 months later says, you know what, actually, this Adam guy is still doing this thing. He's still getting results and he's still posting about it. Fuck it, I'm going to go with him because
Yeah.
he's being consistent. Man, it's
Yeah.
powerful. It really,
Mm-hmm.
truly is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very strong feedback loop, man, for sure. And like, I just want to come back to something you touched on there, which was like presenting these offers. I think, from what I understand from chatting to a lot of different people in similar situations when it comes to sales or agency or coaching or whatever the case may be, a lot of the offer stuff comes back to imposter syndrome, right? Because when you start something new,
For sure.
you are essentially saying, hey, I'm starting this new thing. This is not usually what I do. And you're kind of, all these alarms are going off in your mind saying, you don't usually do this. Why would they buy from you? All this stuff goes off in your mind. But man, I've worked with guys. So like there's actual proof there. If to really remove imposter syndrome, a lot of it just comes back to being completely upfront and honest. Like, and that's the kind of tactic behind that, right? Because if you get on a sales call with somebody and you're after promising them this crazy result, you've this massive guarantee, and it's kind of blown out of proportion. Like, how do you think that's going to make you feel internally when you show up on a sales call and now you have to try and convince this person? Like, it takes a lot of overcoming the inner friction within you, which is the imposter syndrome, to be able to present that confidently. So if you come back and you take a step back and be like, I'm going to be completely upfront with this person. Hey, I have this offer. I've been learning these skills. I've been doing these things. I even did a couple of test runs with a couple of other people. I think this can really help your business. I'm confident in my ability to actually do this for you. And being upfront that, hey, this is my first sales call, so go easy, and maybe even making a joke out of it. I said this to one of my clients, and he ended up signing 4 clients in the first 4 weeks of working together, just from doing that, just from being openly upfront. Right, some of it was on a pay and results basis. Some people was on an actual small fee up front and then payment afterwards. So it's just being open and having integrity with what you're doing, and I think that allows you to come from a place of confidence and congruency, man. Congruency is something that is extremely, extremely powerful, right? If you have amazing results, obviously you're able to carry that in your calls. If you're just starting off, own that. Like, own the fact that you're starting off and believe in yourself enough to be honest with this person. And I'm telling you, even if they don't sign up, it'll sit right with you and you'll be like, that's the best that I could do. So that's kind of the tactic behind that. And I think,
Powerful, man. That's that word congruency. I never use that. That has summed it up perfectly. I can't top that, man. I can't put a better word on it. That literally is unreal. Like, John starts a business tomorrow. He's 18, not very confident, as you said, no results, and goes, "This is me. I believe in me. I believe in my skills. I believe in your business. I believe I can help you." And then let's look at James. James comes in 18, no experience, hasn't done it before, and goes, haha, no brainer offer. I'll guarantee you 100K a month in 3 months, or you don't pay. Hey, man, James is going to hop on that call, and unless he looks like the 100K a month guaranteed in 30 days kind of guy, he ain't going to buy from him. Let's be real. And that congruency is probably the bane of why a lot of people who have no-brainer offers, unreal offers, like they sound unreal, are not closing deals. Because man, like, if you email me, like I said, 5x my Instagram, 5x my TikTok, you sound so confident in your text, and we hop on a call and you're shaking, yeah, well, that's not going to feel congruent, right? Like, that's not going to make me feel like you can actually do this thing. But if you just did, hey, this is me, man. I'm new to the marketing world, been studying it for a year. What I'm going to help you with is your content. I really understand how content's going to drive you more views to your profile first. And then when we get views to your profile, we're going to do this, this, and this. And just fucking explain what you're actually going to do
Mm-hmm.
and be
Yep.
okay with it and be upfront. I think, man, because I've seen it, man. I've seen so many people we've worked with the shittiest offers. And I say shittiest because if something isn't like a no-brainer offer, people think it's a bad offer,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's actually not, because a good offer is the offer that sells and gets results. That's it. But we've
Mm-hmm.
seen people with quote unquote the shittiest offers. Like, I mean, the offer is, I'll create your content. That's it. I'll manage your social media. That's it. No time
Mm-hmm.
frame, no result, no nothing. How did they get to 30K a month doing that if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work? It's the congruency, man.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't trying to lie. They ain't trying to fake it till they make it. They ain't trying to be something they're not. They're just like, boom, this is me. Do you want me?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes or no. And wow, man, if we could implant that into just, every beginner, specifically, I think with coaching, agency, it's so relevant. You plant that into
Yeah.
their brain, it mightn't get them to 10K a month, but it's going to allow them to show up and feel like they're actually doing what they say they're going to do. It's going to allow them to be consistent. If you're congruently, you and your offer fits
Yeah.
you and you fit your offer, man, it's going to be easy to show up. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, think of it,
And
man, in
man.
your life, right? I can think of so many times where I don't show up for something because it doesn't feel congruent.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when we started doing kickboxing together, I felt congruent because we were both starting it as beginners for the first time, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was just like, unreal. I've got a buddy in this. You've got a buddy in
Yeah.
this. Fan-fucking-tastic. But I remember then when I had left and I'd moved somewhere else and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do kickboxing. Well, I felt out of congruency because I wasn't going to go with anyone. So I was feeling like I was going to feel out of place and then would go, oh, but I'll do it anyway. It's fine. But because there wasn't a congruency, I didn't show up. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
go, So I think it really trickles into every area of life. I can see it to be, yeah, very, very true for myself.
Absolutely, man. And like you said, it really trickles into everything, because if you're congruent on your sales calls and you're being honest with yourself about where you are, about your results, everything like that, and you're being very congruent in that, that's going to spread into your content, how you show up on camera. If you're out there creating content as well, you're not going to jump out and start lying to people on camera, right? You're going to be more true to yourself when you're talking to people through DMs, and you're going to be honest. It's going to be more of a back and forth relationship with the genuine intention to help someone, which
Mm-hmm.
is also, so it's like when you start to build your character that way and you focus on who you're becoming rather than the result that you're trying to get, that's just like owning that congruency as much as possible. And if you're staying consistent in the gym, well, now you're more likely to actually be consistent with your outreach, and you're more likely to be consistent with not doing that bad habit that you may do before you started this new journey, right? So the more you're congruent in these other areas, the more that trickles into everything that you do from there. And then all of a sudden, you do that enough over time, not trying to be perfect every single day. There might be times where you slip up. Don't beat yourself up about it. I used to be the worst for that. But once you stay congruent over a consistent amount of time, over a long period of time, you can actually maintain that in all these different areas. And then you just become a new human being. And I think that's so, so important as a man specifically, to do these small things daily on a day-to-day basis, improving incrementally, even if it's 1%. Sometimes it's going to be more. You can do that. It'll just trickle into your life, and you'll just wake up one day, you'll look back and you'll realize how far you've come and how all those habits
Mm.
added up, and you'll be so proud of the man that you've become. And I think there's nothing more powerful than owning that, and it all comes from just being congruent with who you say you are. So, dude, I
Absolutely
think,
love it, man.
yeah, they tie
Because if
consistency,
you
congruency, leads to
Yeah, man.
confidence.
If
It's three
you
C's.
faked it, like if you faked it and got whatever the hell your result was, like if you faked your way to 10K a month, I genuinely don't think you'd feel, as you mentioned, you would not feel like you've become the man, because you kind of didn't. You kind of skipped a few steps, right? You didn't do the things that everybody else has to do, but you skipped to the result. I see this really true. I think, have I ever told you that story of a student in our program who sent me a message saying, "Hey, Adam, I hit like 2K a month." And then you probably know where this is going. But
Mm,
within about 2 weeks after that, I hit 2K a month. He was teaching and guaranteeing people to scale to 5 to 10K a month. in 90 days. And that for me was just such a red flag and alarm bell of like, this is what people are doing. They're getting to 2K a month, and then they're saying, yeah, well, now if I want to get to 10K a month, the easiest, like the fastest way is to lie and say I'm going to guarantee people to get to a result I've never gotten to myself, and that will speed up the journey. And for that guy, I think it did. Like, I would bet he actually got to 10K a month pretty fast. But the question on my mind then is, does he feel like he deserved it? Does he feel like he actually became the man that is worthy of that, is deserving of that? And will he be able to maintain that? I think that's where, even when you catch a lucky break, it can come crashing down. It's why when I built some e-commerce store and it did pretty well, it didn't do very well for very long, and it crashed and burned, because I think I kind of got lucky with it. You know, I stumbled across a product and a marketing channel that not many people were using or knew about, and it worked, but then it got saturated. So I never built another successful e-commerce business after that, because I didn't become the person that could build successful e-commerce businesses. I just caught a trend. I caught a fad. And I think you've seen it, man. It's quite common in our space to see a new offer, a new trend, a new coaching package you could sell, a new agency service. And yeah, like, I'm all for it, man. Hop on a trend, but just be aware that if you ride that trend and get to 10K a month, doesn't mean you're going to stick at 10K a month, right? Because that trend might die. The fundamentals may not be in place, and you maybe didn't become the man.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. And it really is, at the end of the day, the journey of becoming that guy, like that guy, you know, like who is that guy? And this comes back to what we kind of mentioned in the beginning, which is the vision. Not only the vision for your business, but also the vision of like who you want to become. Who is that guy? What do they do? How do they live? Is it a materials type life that you want to live, where you want to have cars and houses and that sort of thing? Which is nothing wrong with that either. Or are you the guy who wants to live out maybe off grid in a place somewhere in nature, right? I know that's definitely the case for me. And
in Vietnam, huh?
In Vietnam, who knows? Who knows? I'd have to decide that place, but I think that also, it plays a massive part in staying consistent and, you know, doing those daily actions and having conviction in yourself, you know, when you are taking those actions as well, because you know where you're going, you know who you're becoming. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest beliefs that I shifted, which was like focusing on who I'm becoming and kind of being proud of that rather than proud of what I was accomplishing was far more meaningful to me, you know, because I remember there was early times where I was transitioning from someone who was like drinking a lot and I was smoking weed and I had all these bad habits. And then I transferred into this life of like meditation, visualization, isolation, right? In solitude and growing personally. And I was absolutely flat broke in the beginning, but I would have days of pure bliss just because of where I had been and then where I came to and where that was going to inevitably lead me. I could almost see the path unfolding before me. Now, I don't know, was that a spiritual thing? But I remember I've told you many times where that was just pure, yeah, pure bliss of just like the person you're becoming. And that was like something that just gave me a positive reaffirmation of like, yeah, this is the thing to look for. Are you moving forward? Are you progressing? And when that clicked for me, I've just held on to that as much as possible. And I only find myself slipping, like in terms of, you know, like self-image or anything like that, when I don't focus on those things and instead I'm looking outwards and I'm looking for something to give me validation. That's where it slips for me. So I would love to know, man, like what was one of the biggest beliefs that you kind of shifted that was like a breakthrough for you?
Man, just want to touch on that. That is powerful, right? Like, that really illustrates your point so well, that example. So if you were flat broke, you weren't measuring your sense of self-worth on the money you were making. You were measuring it on who you were becoming. Like, yeah, man, I just want to highlight that. I just genuinely think that's so profound, because there's so many times where I've not done that, and I have attached my sense of self-worth to the money I make or my net worth. And that is a dangerous fucking game. That is a very dangerous game, because as soon as, for example, let's say I hit the millionaire status last year, and that for me, as I spoke to you, Jordan, man, that was a whirlwind of emotions, man. That was a 1 minute, oh my God, I've achieved the goal. I've become the person I've wanted to become for a very long time. On the other hand, I was like, who the fuck am I?
Mm.
Like, apart from the status of million, I was like, who the hell am I? Who have I become? Have I become the person I want to be, you know? So I know for me personally, I can relate to that, man. If you attach your self-worth on the money in the bank, whatever you have, no, that's not it, man. It's not it. It might be for someone, but for me, my personality type, no, that's not it. You'll feel good, right? Because you can sleep easy saying, hey, cool, I've got finances ticked off the list. Fantastic. Life isn't
Yeah.
just finances. It's not. It's so much more. Finance is 20%. It's
Mm.
80% when you have none of it. When you have it, it's 20% or 10% or 5. So beginning stage, you got to focus on it, of course, but then you got to pivot. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of beliefs, a belief that I feel like I've broken that has pushed me, man, it's tough. Like, I feel like a lot of the beliefs that I broke to make my first bit of money online, become a more confident person, really started after I went through my depression period from like 16 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't had to go back to that place very often since then. Because for me personally, that was a very transformative 2 years. It was a very, very fucking low 2 years, like very low. I was suicidal, cut off friends. I literally did not see the purpose of life, completely nihilistic, did not understand how Adam could ever be happy. And I say, in third person because it feels like a different
Yeah.
person. I genuinely, that version of me could not believe a world in which I could be happy, which is an insane feeling
Wow.
to have of yourself every day. So for me, coming into then the business world and making money, like there was a massive amount of beliefs that had to be cut. An insane amount, like too many to list off. Like the first is worthiness, like literally feeling worthy of happiness, feeling worthy of confidence, feeling worthy of love. Like I had a lack of worthiness in every aspect of life. And then when you battle worthiness and you say, okay, I now feel worthy to be able to be successful, not deserving because you have to earn it, right? But like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a possibility for me. I feel like I'm open to it now. There's still another like 10 things you got to change. Now you got to
Mm-hmm.
feel like you can actually do it, right? There was this Tony Robbins clip I saw before where he talked about an opportunity. So let's just take the you want to make money as the opportunity, or you want to become a better version of yourself opportunity. First, you got to believe the opportunity exists.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the proof of you've seen somebody else achieve it. Fantastic. Cool. It exists. Two, you've got to believe it's actually worth it, right? Because if you don't believe it's worth it, you wouldn't do it. Like if I believe there's an opportunity to make $100 a day selling AirPods, I'm not going to do it because it doesn't seem worth it to me. It might for somebody else who's making $20 a day, and they might see that opportunity and say, wow, that's insane. But you've also then got to believe that for you personally, it's a possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was the biggest belief area I had to work on, is feeling worthy, feeling like personally, this is a possibility for me, for success, for love, for a good, strong, healthy relationship, for good friends, for family, for feeling like I'm not alone. Like all of that had to be worked on. I'm very
Yeah.
similar to yourself. Yeah, man, I had to go deep. I couldn't just watch a YouTube video and cool, man. Limiting beliefs are the problem. I'm good. Kill my limiting beliefs. Tomorrow I'm set. No, man, I had to go deep in it. I had to peel back the layers. I had to look at myself, and I'd love to get your thoughts, Jordan. Did you ever have a moment where you genuinely feel like you had an epiphany? Like you genuinely feel like it changed for you? I'll give you an example and then I'd love to hear if you've had one. For me, it
Mm-hmm.
was I came out of a dermatology appointment, which is like a skin appointment. Dermatologist looks at your skin. I had big acne spots on my face, still have some scars, which is part of my, identity, which is
Mm-hmm.
still something I'm shaking off to this day. It's not 100% removed. And I remember, man, I was sitting in the car with my mother. She had a little kid in the back. It was a kid she was minding. And the sun was beaming in the window, like piercing my eyes. You know, that Irish morning, cold Irish morning, and the sun is beating in, like crystal clear sky,
Yeah.
beating in. Eyes are nearly watering just from the sun. And then I start crying. And I'm like 16 or 17 with my mother and a kid she's minding. That does not make you feel very manly, very
Mm.
in control. very masculine. The complete fucking opposite. I felt terrible. But like genuinely in a moment, I felt so empowered. In that moment, I realized everything in my life was my fault. The exact feeling I had right there, that emasculated, weak, crying in front of my mother, feeling I'm not worthy, feeling I can't do the things I want to do, was a beautiful fucking moment. I could literally feel the weight of, oh my Jesus, I have been putting all of this on the world. I've been putting all of this as I'm not worthy. It's not for me. Yes, because you've been telling yourself that. I've been lying to myself for months, man. Months and months of just lying to myself. And in that moment, it genuinely clicked. It clicked. And it was a 180 shift for me. Like my family for months after were like, whoa, like what has gone on here, man? Like this is good. This is a great shift and a great 180. But like, Jesus, it was like the equivalent of what I imagine someone goes through if they have a trip or a spiritual experience where they come out of that and feel changed. I was 10 a.m. in the morning sober, coming out of school to go to a dermatology appointment, but it was the same fucking experience.
Wow, man. Wow. Like, I just want to recognize you for a second, man, because that's like, I appreciate you for being so vulnerable with that as well, because that's such a breakthrough moment. And I would imagine there may be somebody who knows listening to this who may be going through that right now, or maybe someone who has been through that and they can resonate with that. So I want to recognize you for that for a second. And dude, like, and I can tell that that's where the moment changed, because you take responsibility for everything in that. Your perception of reality has just altered, like completely changed. You went from being a victim to starting the route and the journey of being empowered. And it's like the truth will set you free, but first it will completely piss you off. Right?
Yes.
That just sounds like exactly what happened there.
I
And
love it.
I can resonate with that so much, man, because we've chatted so many times about these different things, and we've had very similar experiences, funny enough, and we have a very similar personality type. I know, because we've talked all about this stuff as well, which is again just interesting to say the least. But there was a moment for me, man. There was a couple of them. It was something that I felt like I knew for a very long time. Like, as I was going through my college years, I was very distracted. I was chasing women. I was chasing partying. I was chasing, drugs and alcohol and having a great time. And I was running away from the relationship I had with myself and the relationship that I had with my father specifically. And that was something that has really just fueled everything that I do right now, right? You know that. I've told you this a lot of times. But the big moment for me was as I was coming towards the end of that era of my life, when I was like finishing up college, and I had just came back from living in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, just south of Amsterdam. I'd lived there for a year. I had come back. I went back into my life, I guess, back to Ireland, back to working a job, and back to that reality that I was in. And I just spent the last year on this kind of like psychedelic spiritual journey that I was on, with all these new perspectives, and everything going on. And I came back a changed person, right? With kind of a new vision, because there was a lot of times I spent for myself. But before I got to that kind of, that growth phase where I was spending a lot of time meditating and I was getting into business and kind of went into solitude, there was a period of a couple of months. So it wasn't a particular moment, but there's one moment specific that I'll talk about, but there was a period of months more than anything else where I got back home. I went back to the friend group that I was kind of hanging around with at the time. They had all stayed the exact same, living in the same place, working in the same job. And for the first time in my life, I was sitting in a room with about 20, 30 people. And it was coming up to the end of the year, so people were celebrating Christmas and things like that. And I was living in Cork City. And I remember sitting in a room where 20, 30 people around you, all having a great time. Some people are singing, some people are chatting, some people are, just having a great time, right? And I was sitting down, and it was like this moment where, if I was to try and paint the picture of like a movie, for example, where the camera zooms in on you and then it zooms back out and everything is fast forward, but you're there just staring at the camera. you feel incredibly alone while being surrounded by like a lot of people. Everybody's having a great time, but you're there having this realization that I hate my life. I don't like this. I don't like this. And I felt like I was finally facing the music. And it was like exactly what you said is like I started to take ownership over everything. I was like, you've been sitting here and you've been running away from your problems. You've been playing the victim. You've been blaming everybody else for the way that your life is, or the results that you've been getting, or the job that you're in, or the people that you're surrounded by, or the girls that you're getting with. All of this stuff is like you're solely responsible for everything. You've caused it. And it was like sitting there in that moment and just being like, oh, fuck, I need to figure this out fast, like fast. But there's nobody could understand
Oh
that because I
man,
started to chat to people about it again. I had friends I was
nah,
talking to about it, and you've disconnected because you've now like stepped into a new reality, you know? And everything I'd been running from just kind of
man,
came up and I had to
yeah,
face it full on, like full on. And then from there, man, it was just a journey of removing myself from everything that I had been doing in my past life.
hmm,
And I felt like it's strange because I felt like my life started then. When I look back, it's like my life started that moment, you know? And it kind of actually reminds me of that quote where, you know, every man has two lives and the second one begins when he realizes he only
yeah,
has one.
yeah.
That exact moment
Wow,
was
man.
right there, man, you know? So
Because
powerful stuff.
I couldn't imagine being you coming back from that experience, being in Amsterdam, probably being around a lot of maybe more open minded, freer thinkers. Hey, the spiritual kind of induced mushroom
Mm,
vibe helps, let's be real.
yeah,
But
for
coming
sure.
from that and going back to the old thing you used to love, well, you thought you loved, right? That scenario, that friend group, that party life. And then, yeah, just feeling completely alone in that. That's it's a different level of hard, man. Like everything we
Mm,
go through in life, any of these pivotal moments are really difficult. Like my pivotal moment, I think, was really difficult. Some people would listen to and think that was nothing. Some will listen and think that sounds impossible. And same for me listening to yours, like that sounds hard because you had to go from, you know, I know from you telling me, right? Social butterfly essentially to no butterfly, like
yeah,
chill by your own in the cocoon kind of vibe. Like you had to
yeah,
completely switch up
yeah.
completely from what seemed like an extroverted lifestyle to completely introverted to
Hmm.
speak to 20 people, meet people on the weekend, go out, party, have all the fun, interact with 100 people a week, have chats with 20 people on a deep level, to none. Just you.
Just me, myself, and
Just
I.
you
Yeah.
and mentors and books and things you were listening to. That's a massive
Hmm.
change, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It was huge, but I felt like I became more of myself when I did that because when you face the silence that a lot of people run from, because I know I was running from it. When you face that silence and you have no other choice but to sit by yourself, see your thoughts for what they are, hear all the limiting beliefs, hear the echoes, hear the negative thought patterns and the spirals that you go down, the stories you tell yourself, and to sit there with those and face them full on was what I was running from. But when you do that, you take on a whole new level of power. And that's when I started
Mm.
meditating. Because when I started meditating, I started to see my thoughts as if I was looking into a car window like this. And all my thoughts are just spinning around in the car, but I'm not in there. And that was my realization after probably 3 or 4 months of meditating every day consistently for like 5 or 10 minutes, even though I was getting distracted. I started to like see that very clearly. And then they stopped having ownership over me. And that's when I started to go deep into the mind because I was like, wow, these don't control me. Everything I've been running from, there's some sort of solution there. I just got to figure it out. But they don't own me. That's not actually
Mm.
me, you know? And I felt deeply authentic with that because naturally I'm actually a more introverted person, you know, because I spend a lot of time alone now. I love my alone time and I'm actually less social. But that's because I actually enjoy my own company. I'm not running from someone. I'm not running from myself. I'm not trying to be extroverted or
Mm.
social just for the sake of it, you know? I'm actually doing it because I want to do it because I want to spend time with a specific person or a specific group of people. Very selective about what I let into my mind for that all of those reasons. So I think that's just part of the journey of being more of yourself, being more authentic, and understanding yourself. And sometimes that starts with facing the silence, you know?
Man, I love that. Facing, like you said, face the music, face the silence, fucking stare it dead on in the eyes, lock eyes, feel it.
Yeah.
That's so hard, man. That's really difficult to do. I found for me it's very difficult. That's why it took so long. That's why I had to go through whatever it was, a year or a year and a half of complete pain and misery to face it. Because I couldn't face it on day one. I wasn't ready. I
Mm.
wasn't I needed it to slap me in the face. Some people are better at bringing an issue up before it becomes an issue. For
Yeah.
me, that was not the case. It sounds very similar for you. Where do you think you would be, Jordan, if you came back from that experience? You came back from living in the Netherlands, back to the Irish bubble that you went back into the party life, living in Cork. If you had had that realization, camera zooms in, camera zooms out, you realize, fuck, I do not want to be here. I'm completely alone. If you had that realization and you didn't meditate, you didn't dive into the spiritual world, where do you think you would have ended up? What I'm trying to get at is, do you think someone needs to go through that? Because I needed to. I definitely did. But someone in your scenario, do you think they would have to go into that world? Because some people have a very, very strong dislike and a distaste towards the kind of more spiritual side of life for whatever
Mhm.
reason. So do you think it's something they just got to face and get real with? Or would someone be able to just, yeah, do that cold with none of this kind of external spiritual reference to kind of frame what direction you got to take?
Great question, man. To be completely honest, I think everybody's experience and journey is very unique to them themselves. Like, I know for me specifically, the reason I went that direction was because I found out and I realized that I'd been living a life that I did not want. And I knew that I had been doing this for so long that if I want to keep going the direction that I'm going in, which is just probably doing more of the same, if you don't change
Mm.
something, then you have more of the same results. It's inevitable. You've already built the path. It's just going to keep continuing if you don't make a change, or if you don't seek help, or you don't seek guidance, or you don't try something new. So my trajectory would have just been the exact same. But I think at the back of my mind, I would have always known. But it got to a point for me where it was so bad. And just from what you said as well, I think it was similar for you, where it got to a point where it was more painful to stay the same than to seek something else. And I think that happens for people at different times in their life. Like I know family members who have spent their whole life up until their 40s or 50s, and then they have the moment where they're like, okay,
Mm.
I just need to change something. And then they go that spiritual path, or maybe they do something else entirely. It's not always spirituality, but it really just depends on what route you try to go to. But I think it happens for different people. And for some people, it never happens at all. And I think also for a lot of people, there mightn't be anything that wrong in their life. And they might actually have, a pretty solid life and they're happy with where they're going. And then they discover the spiritual path, or maybe it was part of their childhood and it was brought up that way. And then they go that path and they figure things out that way. So I think the trajectory for me would have been more of the same, because if I didn't actively make a choice, it would have just stayed the same path, right? But I think for
Mm.
other people, it can change, it can vary. I think it really depends on the person specifically. But definitely, if it gets to a point where this is exactly what I don't want, and you understand that if you don't change something, that's going to stay the exact same in the future, then that's the point where you're like, okay, cool. It's more painful for me to stay here than to go looking for something
Yeah.
new and to put myself out of that comfort zone.
I genuinely believe that's a privilege that you and I had,
Mm-hmm.
because I do believe, man, I agree with you. I think for most people, they'll either have that realization way later, because the thing isn't so bad that it just takes time to compound until it's bad enough. Or two, it's not so bad and just literally it's compounding, but it just never quite reaches the bubbling point. Like, I
Yep.
genuinely believe for me, that was a privilege. Maybe you'd agree that having it
Mm-hmm.
more intense, the bad thing in your life be more intense, the negative thoughts to be more intense, the negative self view to be more intense for a shorter period of time, I think is a privilege, because it allowed me to face the music way quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
Yeah.
imagine if my thoughts weren't that bad, and I didn't view myself that bad. And it was only kind of like some parts of me that I wanted to improve. Well, yeah, man, I could still be on that path till I'm 35. And then it might hit me at 35 because it compounded over 15 years, for example. And I do, I see it, man. I see people, I've had comments before of people being like, wow, man, that's crazy. That's so big. I don't have anything like that in my life. I'm like, man, but you will then. Because if you don't, you'll create it by compounding whatever is negative in your life right now. I believe that to be true. Where
Wow.
if you're pretty happy, you're in a relationship, you feel worthy of love, yeah, cool. You're kind of confident, you're kind of social, you're in a job, you're making okay money. Yeah, like that's here. So I was down here, you're here. So for you to get to the, the bubbling point, it's going to take a longer time. And in fact, it's
Mm.
probably harder for you to make the change because there's not as much of a need to change. When you're 16 or 17 and you deeply, truly in your heart believe that you'll never find happiness, like it's not an option for you, it's a card you weren't allowed to see, it was a card you weren't dealt. Yeah, man, you bubble fairly fucking fast. Really fucking fast. And obviously, in the world we live in, we see this where we see male suicides being fucking sky high. Yes,
Yeah.
lots of females, of course, as well. But I'm just going to talk about what I know. This is the
Mm.
problem. And my brother has shared this openly with me and other people as well. For him, it was a very similar story of an intense period of extreme self doubt, extreme self loathing, extreme lack of worthiness. That bubbled and we came out the other side and we're like, we feel like different people. But again,
Yeah.
imagine that didn't happen, man. I genuinely believe it's one of the biggest privileges. I would hate to be
Absolutely.
35 and have that happen. I would much rather have that happen when you're young because you have less baggage. I think it's easier to push through it and deal with it and to tackle the things. Because man, imagine the baggage you would deal with at 40 when you had partied every weekend till you were 40 and you had bags, you had this, you had that every weekend till you're 40. Imagine the baggage that you would have to let go of. Fuck.
Mm. It's just you're just making it more difficult, and it's definitely a blessing, man. 100%, 100%. And it's difficult to pinpoint why some people decide to change, why some people don't decide to change.
Hmm.
And I think as men, like specifically, I can only speak about men. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, but as a man, I think we all have some sort of desire for purpose and meaning in our lives. And we'll either seek it at the bottom of a bottle or we'll seek it in something that we can create for ourselves. I think that's driven, like that's in our DNA, right? Our masculine energy is there to provide something to the world, to live and find purpose, to create something amazing, whether that be something like a family, whether that be, like leading your family, whether that be a business, whether that be actually just being a top performer in your job. You don't always have to be an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
but just doing something where you can sit at your bed at the end of the day and be like, I gave everything. I showed up as best as I possibly could. I'm getting better
Mm.
than I was yesterday. And you can honestly say, I'm happy with my progress. You are winning. Like you are winning. Right.
Fact.
And it comes back to what we talked about, which is like focusing on who you're becoming rather than the external outcome. And that's really what it's all about. And I think, unfortunately, it takes those pivotal moments, but I think that's all part of the journey, man. It's like it's happening for us, right? It's all happening for us, not to us. You can easily slip into a victim mentality, like the thing that happened,
Mm.
that realization that you had. You could have easily just blamed the world, or blamed your parents, or blamed somebody else, and kept the train running for a long time. But for whatever reason, that clicked for you. Now, where that came from, who knows? It's difficult to pinpoint, like I said, but
Mm.
it's an
Mm.
absolute blessing, man. 100%. Yeah.
It is, man. It is. It's so good to be able to talk about these experiences because
Mm.
man, I remember when I was in that period, there was this guy, Brian Turner, who made YouTube videos. He was a fitness guy. He still makes videos. In fact, I actually had him as a client in the agency at one point, which is really funny because I looked up to this dude so much because I had a type of acne that he had, cystic acne, which literally just looks
Mm.
like these big, massive fucking boils on your face. Very different to
Yeah.
like pimples and typical acne, right? And he had it. And this man was recording YouTube videos, going out in
Mm.
public, showing his face, and he had it worse than me. And I remember seeing that, being like, holy shit, man, I'm here, scared to go to school, scared to talk to people because of how bad I think I look and the judgment that's going to come from that. This man's out here publishing videos to YouTube. This man's showing it all, like. And I
Wow.
remember seeing that and that the belief, man, the hope, that brought to me was insane. Absolutely insane. So
Yeah,
this is why it's so important for us to share this stuff, man. If it
yeah,
helps, it's the cliche. If it helps one fucking person, I'm happy, man. Because
absolutely.
I was that person that was potentially going to end my life if I didn't have that hope. So, it's as deep as that is, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's it, man, and that's it. I love that example because that just goes to show we all have a story to tell. You watching this video, you have a story to tell as well, and it's your moral duty to the past version of you to overcome that challenge and share it with the world. We're always best equipped to help the person that we used to be. I can't remember where I heard that quote, but I think it's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best out there. And
Ed Milet.
that, yeah, that's it. That's it. It was on one of his podcasts. And man, like even like that moment where you were watching this guy's videos, he's going through the same thing, but he's owning it. He's being congruent with that. He's owning it, and he's
Yeah,
out there living life, and he's doing it. Like who knows? That probably played a part. That was probably one switch in your
for
mind
sure.
that was like, wow,
Hmm.
this is actually possible. So being out there and sharing your story is going to help somebody else, and that's a knock-on effect. And that's really all we can do at the end of the day. Like we're here to develop as human beings. We're here to become the best versions that we possibly can in the time that we have here, which is limited. And I think a massive part of that is sharing your story, being who you are, and doing everything you can to help the guy next to you, to help the woman next to you, to become a leader for yourself, but not only for yourself, but for the people around you. Not only for the people around you, but for the people who you're going to lead, your family. Like it's just there's so much more than just starting the business or just doing the
For
thing
sure.
and becoming disciplined. It's far more, it's far deeper, it's far bigger than that. It's about that knock on effect, that impact. And it all starts with just overcoming that one challenge, that thing that at the back of your mind that you know you can do.
Hmm.
And it might take some time, but you can do it. And when you do it, that's part of your story. You're just stacking story blocks on top of each other, and that's going to become your hero's journey that you can tell
Hmm.
someday to the person and go back and help them. Like that's what I think is most beautiful about life, because we're all on this hero's journey and we're all creating things that are unique to us in different ways, and we're all on this journey and having the ups and downs, and that's what makes it fun. And then we meet people like like you and us, where we can openly share these things and share it with the world. And I think there's nothing more powerful than that, specifically because of the world that we live in today, the way men's mental health is as well. I think it's so important more than ever to share these things.
So true. Man, it motivates me to think about that. It motivates me to sit and think, what will I think when I look back at 80? That's so motivating. Because imagine you look back at 80 and you're like, man, I didn't do nothing. I lied to myself, I didn't challenge myself. I didn't provide. I didn't lead. I didn't become who I could become. I scratched a tiny bit of it. I don't think you'd feel very good.
No.
Imagine sitting at your bed at 80 looking back going, God damn, I'm still in good shape. I'm still walking because I've treated my body right. My mind's
Yeah.
sharp as a tack. And look at all these things I've done. Not even things. Look at the relationships I've built. Look at the experiences I've had. Look at all of
Mhm.
it put together. Damn, that's a tasty fucking sandwich. You know what I mean, man? Like that shit motivates me, man. I
Mm.
really would not want to be 80 looking back going, yeah, it was fine. Yeah, it was fine. How was life? Yeah, it was grand. It's all right, man.
Grand,
No, I want
yeah.
to look back
Yeah.
saying that was fucking class, man. That was
Mm.
unreal. Yeah, there were some things I could have done better. Some things I could have done worse. Overall, it was solid. Decent.
Mm.
That's what I want, man. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people would relate, like, do that. Sit for 5 minutes, think about that. Are you being the person you want to be?
Mm.
Maybe. If you are, fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're not, yeah, man, two options. And that's one option. Change something. That's it.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
I'll take the decision,
Jordan, I saw you posted about Goggins. I saw you posted
Mm.
about Goggins, and I checked out the Huberman Goggins podcast because, similar to yourself, I had an image of who Goggins was, you know,
Yeah.
the type of person, why he is what he is. And there was a certain thing, I think he said it, or it was some other ultra marathon runner that I think they referenced, where, he's doing an ultra marathon and he's whatever, 100 miles deep, right? That's already like 4 marathons. 100 miles deep. Obviously, the average human brain is going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing it? Why are you going to do more? And it was as simple as this. He said, look, man, there's two options. There's one option. Keep going. Like, am I really going to create two options and say there's an option to not keep going? No, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's just one option. Just keep going. Sounds so simple, so basic, but I think life is easier than we make it out to be.
Oh man, we make it so hard for ourselves. We
We
create
make it
problems.
so difficult.
We create obstacles, you know, and a lot of the time it's just the ego. A lot of the time it's just trying to stay comfortable. And I love the simplicity of that, and I actually love the simplicity of Goggins's mindset, specifically in that
I love it.
podcast as well, because he's just like, there's no passion, there's no motivation, there's no nothing. It's just me. I'm in it and I'm doing it, and it's just there's so much power to that, you know. And I know Alex Hormozy has a very similar mindset where it's just like it's going to suck and you're going to suck, but you're going to get better and it will suck less, and then you get somewhere and then people start to cheer you on and it gets a little bit better, but you still suck at something else. And it's just like there's a beautiful reality there where it's not like sugar coated. It's not like, hey, this is going to be amazing once you get to here. It's just really coming back to the lens that we've referenced throughout this whole conversation, which is like focus on the person you're becoming on a day-to-day basis. And it's like when you can do that, you can give yourself the option to just keep going, see how far you can go and push yourself and do all of those things. And there's just so much beauty in that, you know?
Ladies and gents, Jordan Lee, Adam Walsh knocked it out of the park once again. Let's go.
This was an epic podcast, man. I really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah,
me too, man. We always have good chats. And the fact that we documented it, this is like someone just got a camera and stuck it in a sauna. So we've had this exact conversation 100 times over in different avenues.
Yeah.
Now to get to see the real insight.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And that's the kind of thought process I had around starting this in general, because I was having so many great conversations and I was like, I wonder if we could just get a camera, you know, or just get some sort of documentation of this. And this is my way of doing that. So yeah, dude, I mean, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you. You're a great human being. It's phenomenal what you've done. You always inspire me every day, and it's great to be connected and be close friends with you as well. So for anybody listening, man, where can they find you? Where's the best place to find Adam Walsh?
Yeah, just pop my name in on Instagram, YouTube, best places. We try and post everywhere. So yeah, just pop my name in, you'll find me. And same to you, man. Same to you. Like from meeting you for the first time, as I mentioned, 2021 to where you are now, it's bananas, man. It's bananas. It genuinely, truly is the growth you've gone through, the change, and even just the stories you've told me. Inspiring, man.
It's all part of the journey, man. It's all part of the journey.
Fact.
And also, for anybody looking up Adam, there's going to be a lot of fake accounts. There's going to be a lot of fake Instagram profiles. Be careful of those. They'll try to sell you crypto. But awesome, dude.
No
Fantastic
crypto.
Connecting always. We'll probably have another conversation like this. I think there's plenty more that we can talk about and so many different topics to dive into, man. So I'm looking forward to when we do that.
Same, man. Looking forward to the next one.
Chat to you soon, brother. Take care.
Cool, man. Chat soon.